Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. I'm joined in our mobile on-location studio by the great Justin Wubben. We're going to get into his story in a moment, but I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to invest in yourself by getting the opportunity to learn vicariously through others. If you guys know anything about me, my name is Edward Collins, and I believe wholeheartedly in that you can actually shortcut your journey of success by learning through the trials and tribulations of others. Others specifically who have been through what you may be going through now and made it through to the other side. So I want to thank you, and I want to jump right into today's episode because Justin has so much that he could share, so many different ways that we're going to go potentially with this particular podcast. We're on location here in Orlando, and we're going to get right into it. Justin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Awesome, Edward. Thanks for having me, brother.
Oh, my goodness. The pleasure is definitely mine. I mean, you and I have known each other for now definitely a year. Definitely a year. And I know a lot about your story, at least the story that's present in a moment. But what I like to do typically is in this type of environment is I want to get to know a little bit more about your backstory. So if you wouldn't mind, let's roll back the clock. Tell me a little bit about what young Justin was like.
All right. So I grew up in a small town. It's called Spencer, South Dakota. Spencer, South Dakota was best known in 1998. A big F4.5 tornado pretty much wiped it off the map.
Oh my goodness!
And so population.
This was 95, you said?
About 98.
98.
Yep.
98, okay.
And so in 98, and so I grew up in a small farm town, and so Spencer's so small. When I say, hey, where are you from? Spencer, South Dakota. Population. I say it's 150, and they go, oh, 150,000. No.
150?
150, period, not comma.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
okay.
like, small town.
Okay.
That's kind of where we're at. It was about 300 at the time, and obviously it wiped it up pretty good and, rebuilt to a point. It was so small that there's not even a bar.
Wow.
So it's just a small farm town. So I grew up in a really small, kindergarten through 5th grade, I was in a small class of 3.
Oh my goodness!
And this is that cool thing of like the people who go, oh, but I'm not in the right area. I'm not whatever. I'm like, I'm not gonna kid. Like I've been across the nation. I've spoken a lot of different places. So for a lot of people who grow up and say, well, not me, I can't. And you've heard everyone say, yes, you can. Literally, you can impact so many people. But yeah, going back, farm kid, awkward. Okay. Like us all probably at some level. I wore my shorts over my belly button, kind of like thing, and long socks, just awkward, scrawny, weird kid. I mean, I'm still kind of, I'm still awkward, I'm still weird, and still scrawny. So, I mean, that's not much has changed. But
evolution of size. It's just a lot taller now.
Yeah, I'm 6'6", and I always joke that I graduated at the top of my class, but it wasn't because of my GPA. It was because you could see simply my height. But no, it's fun. It was good. It was I was terrified, like most entrepreneurs or whatever like that, of people, of speaking. And it was just really awkward. Okay. And that's the best part. Is just authentically that's what it was. It was just so I overcame a lot of that stuff as I was the goofy kid.
Okay.
And so it is, we were just chatting about some people like overcoming certain things, but anytime you got someone to laugh, there was some level of either significance. It was fun, kind of a goofy kid, but it was just kind of weird to fit in. But I always kind of had this weird thing inside of me that still knew I was a leader.
Okay.
But it was weird, especially I knew like that was elementary. As you grew up in middle school, I was on the middle school student council, and I ended up being a president because one day I made a decision, I'm going to do that. Okay. And then eventually got to high school and I was like, all right, does anybody want to be the president? I'm like, I'm going to do that. Okay. So I made a decision. I'm just like, I'm going to do that. And so I was always just kind of a president. And then I went off to college and I joined a fraternity. And eventually I just made a decision. I'm like, I'm going to be a president of that. So I was a president of that. I don't know. But it was more of a calling. It was one of those things, like it didn't make sense on a lot of different levels, because again, everyone had a tribe that they fit in, but I fit into everyone's tribe. So I didn't really have a group.
Okay.
I was kind of in everybody's group.
Okay. Let's unpack that a bit. Like being called, like what does that term mean to you?
Now or then?
Then.
No clue.
Okay, you just felt compelled to move in that particular direction, raise your hand, hey, I'm okay to be the president, or...
Yeah, it was this weird little thing of like, well, Well, at the time, probably for student council, you got to go out of meetings. So you got to go out of school or out of class. So it was like, oh, this cool thing. Like,
yeah.
Student council gets to like get special privileges, right? Yeah, like they don't have to go to class. So I'm like, okay, cool.
I'll do that.
So I'll do that, and I don't know. And then you controlling the candy store, just those weird things like that. But yeah, I think responsibility really shifted when I was in the fraternity.
Okay.
Because in that time, like, I mean, I was a big, like, probably junior high school was when I really started drinking.
Okay.
And so when because it was just one of those things, because I remember I was so shy and awkward. I remember one time, the thing was like, go out to the senior keg thing or whatever, and I had some beers, and I was a quiet, shy, awkward kid.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden, people were like, oh my gosh, you're so goofy and funny. And I thought, oh yeah, because I was just like,
went into that
let myself loose.
Okay.
And so that's where I felt like people, they saw me.
Right.
And so that was it. That was that neat little, shift. And so, so like junior year, I mean, and it was an interesting thing because like through pretty much high school through college, I would say I had drinking buddies instead of friends.
Okay.
Because I'm just, it was just one of those things that like, hey, I was just relaxed, and I felt like, some people, they were drinking like angry drinkers. I was just a fun, goofy, weird, party drinker.
Okay.
And I was that's my identity, who I was.
That was the ingredient that got you the attention you were seeking.
Yeah. So like, it's funny, in college, no one really knew my first name. I was Wubben. Yeah. Even my wife, she goes, I never really knew who you were. I just knew it was Wubben.
Okay. So you became the character. And you lived into that character.
Oh yeah. Yep. 100%.
How did you enjoy that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%. Like, and this is that neat thing. Like, we all have that thing, and so like, I mean, I've had things in life where we're addicted to alcohol, pornography. I mean, just like, and I think that we all have that addicted thing, and even as entrepreneurs, we are.
Well, by very nature, yes.
There's this addiction, if
to
you will,
dopamine in general,
right? And so like, I was the guy like, it's kind of fun when you think about it. Now you're like, holy cow! But like, when you're standing up there with a 2-story beer bong named Big Burpa. That type of thing. But that was that whole level of that significance. And it's just that significance we're all looking for when you break it down. And so it's fun to figure out who you were. And I remember one time I went to a party and I didn't bring any beer, but I faked that I was having that, like that. And everyone was like, oh, hey. And I was just that person. And it was a really cool shift because I found I didn't need alcohol to be me.
You played the part instead of being the part.
Yeah. It was interesting. Okay. It was like everything to me now is a thought experiment. Back then it was just like I just didn't have beer, so I just wanted to fit in. So hey guys, hey, what's up? And I just like I knew the thing. I was like, hey, and so it was an interesting pivot because I was like, interesting. But it wasn't until like a couple of really pivotal moments, like, and so junior year of high school, I was in cross country as well. I was out running, and my low back and hip totally locked up. And I couldn't take a step, and my mom said, you should go to a chiropractor. And I said, well, what the heck's a chiropractor? Well, I didn't know, and so I went in, and then all of a sudden I went in, and they fixed me. And I was like, holy cow, and I can run again. I mean, I couldn't move. Like, I couldn't take a step. Like, that sucker was like, holy cow. Well, it was interesting because the next day was career day. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? I don't know, but
fresh in my mind.
I don't know, but like, dude, that chiropractic thing's pretty cool. And so, like, that was then that usually our pain is a platform for our purpose, what we're going to be called to do. And so that thing was like, I don't know. So I went into chiropractic. And so I had to do a biology major, chemistry minor. And I remember one time, so this is where I ended up, and I was still drinking. And I remember one time there was a house party, and all of a sudden cops came. And I was like, oh, and I busted out the back. Sure enough, I was sitting in the cop car. And it was one of those things where I'm like, oh no.
Where's my future going?
Oh no.
Yeah.
And I remember the cop, comes back in and he opens the door and he goes, there's a bar fight. Get out of here. You're lucky as heck.
Wow.
And that was a really pivotal shift. And so like anybody who's ever had a thing, like anybody's been in prison or done some bad things, and I just have no judgment on them because a lot of people, and believe me, there's lawyers, there's police officers, there's attorneys and doctors who are all in the same thing. How do I know? I went to college with them.
Yeah.
It's called reality. So I have no judgment for those people who've had things happen. So I feel very blessed. But like you said, it was just a very pivotal moment to go, hang on, I got to make a different life choice.
And did you make that choice in the moment in the back of the car, or was it something that happened weeks or months later?
I'd say that it was a piece of my journey, but like, because then you're in college, you're like, yeah, doing everything. Then it got into hang on, I'm going to do things more wisely.
Okay.
Not that I didn't stop drinking or didn't do those things or whatever, or partying or having fun, but like it was just a pivotal, like it was one of probably the first taps of like, no, you're called to do something better. This isn't you. This I think that was maybe, Edward, one of the first times it was like, yeah, the from the outside they'd be like, dude, you're a drunk. Me, I was a college guy. You're just doing what you do.
Exactly.
And to me, I was like, that was probably a pivotal time to go, no, tap. You're called for a few things that are different. You don't need this. Not that you can't still, like, I can still have a beer and that's okay, but like that doesn't have to help you define who you are. You don't need that. Right. And not to mention, you're about to be a health practitioner. So there's a few contradictions, and we all have contradictions. But what happened was, I was like, contradictions always lead to destruction. The level of contradiction leads to the level of destruction. So once I made that like internal, like, oh, hang on a second, and I just fast forwarded the path. Hang on, if I would have done enough stupid things where my path was heading, I was like, I had to make some changes. And so fast forward, eventually over time, I became. So again, you're in your freshman year. Oh my gosh, I'm free, and sophomore year, and then junior year, and then I was kind of had some responsibilities in the college, computer lab thing, which was one thing. But then when I became president, it was interesting because I think I went downtown that year maybe 4 times. Okay. Like hardly ever, because I think, when you become a parent too, like I got 3 kids, and you look at life a little bit different when you're guiding someone.
Right. So in this role of being president, you're like, wait a minute, I need to be a little bit more of a role model.
I was taking care of stupid drunk people who I was.
Yeah.
And so but then I could also relate with them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're just like, your responsibility shifts because you're leading people, but you're also representing a facility. And it is like, you're now held accountable by certain national organizations and things. And everyone's heard about the Greek life, good or bad. I mean, I think that was probably one of the best things I ever had because, you had some philanthropy in there. And granted, you had social things or whatever. But, like, when you got to be at that leadership point where now you were responsible for people's lives, because believe me, if people drink too much, I've known people who have ended up in the hospital, and I've had to take them there.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's heard at least 1 or 2 stories where that leads to death.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh,
premature death in the worst way. I mean.
Yeah, it is. And so you see it, and so it starts off like anything, starts off like fun, and it is. I think that's the thing, is a lot of people want to have fun, but like anything, they try to cut loose so much that it's tough, and then they just push themselves too far. And so luckily no one did have that happen, but it's different when if something would have, another one of those, like, boy, whose responsibility? And I think that's what God taps you every once in a while, and be like, hey, whose responsibility is this?
And you recognized it was yours in that moment.
Yeah, and so it's just those little tiny shifts.
Okay.
From kind of an identity shift, and we all have them. And so when you become more responsible from the person that has no responsibilities to many more, it's other people. And then, again, obviously in hindsight, it's 2020 on that one. It just, at the time, I was like, I can't, like, I'm very responsible for these people. And didn't become their friends, by the way, when you did that.
Now, it's interesting because you're now essentially an adult at this point, but taking responsibility for other people who are of the similar age to you. Like, let's just wind the clock back a bit, because I want to make sure I didn't miss something. Growing up, when you were younger, did you have that same level of responsibility at all, or do you have siblings? Like, I don't actually know the story behind that.
So siblings, my sister's 3 years older, and I have another one who's 7 years younger. So there's 11-year gap between us kiddos.
Yeah.
So taking care of, I can't say per se. I mean, I look at my little sister as I mentor her.
Okay.
And I'm mentored by my older sister.
Okay.
Like I always did, I looked up to and still do, and now we're at that older age where we're each other's peers, but we still have that nice great
relationship, dynamic.
Yeah. So I really do. I just kind of think there's that little bit of that responsibility, but I think it really pivoted from the, hey, I'm just having fun to now you're responsible when you get shifted in a leadership role. You know, 'cause student council is nice. You get to make decisions, good, but like that was kind of like just it held a little bit more power. So I can't say that the kiddos were the thing.
I think though that's something that is just definite based on your character, because we all know that there are leaders out there that don't take any responsibility for what they're doing.
Right.
So you chose to take the responsibility. You made an active choice. Was it something that you modeled, or was it something you just felt innately called to do?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I think that's when you're the person doing the stupid things, which that was me, 100%.
Yeah, right.
And when they're yelling at, you know, your authority figures are yelling at you to stop or don't do it, they're not fun.
Right.
Like it's interesting if ever anybody, police officer, you know, if someone's ever how you view things. If you're doing something bad, the cops are the bad guys. But let's say they're there to save you, them cops are the good guys.
Right.
And so it's just your lens. And same thing with leadership until you've actually got to that point where you experience it and are put in the role.
Right.
And you recognize your role.
Yeah.
It just kind of shifts that responsibility. And obviously there's different leadership groups or mentoring groups that I went to that kind of changed my perspective on, you know, the roles. And that's big too.
Well, the evolution you made from being the partier to being the president and being the responsible party of the partiers.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
That's definitely an amazing transformation, because again, not everyone has the capacity to do that, and you did.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, again, I can authentically say that this is one of my buddies. Again, I consider him a friend, but I just at the time we were more drinking buddies than friends at the time. But I remember one time it was just like, he goes, Wubben, we got to find us a good Christian woman to calm us down. And it hit me one time. I was like, you're right. And it's funny, fast forward, I have that person.
Right.
I have that person. And it's a good way, in a good way. But I think that's that thing we're all seeking for attention and looking. But yeah, and so I see her, she sees me now, and which is really good. And but yeah, I think that's it. We're always looking for our person. At least for me, I know I was.
So you're in this role. You took leadership responsibility, and you got through it. You graduated through the other side. What was the next step after graduation then?
From college? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I went in, I graduated, did my undergrad, majored in biology, minored in chemistry, and so I graduated, and then I went off for my doctorate in chiropractic school.
Okay.
And so...
Did you stay local for that, or did you go?
So I graduated University of South Dakota. Yep, and then my wife, she's actually an audiologist, so she did her doctorate down at USD, University of South Dakota. Mm-hmm. And so then I went up to Northwestern Health Sciences University up in Bloomington, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So that's where I did my trimesters up there. But the interesting thing, that was the interesting thing, because I didn't meet my wife and I never when we first met each other. It wasn't like till like 3 or 4 weeks before I moved up to the cities.
Oh.
So I told myself, number one, I would never do a long distance relationship.
Long distance, yeah.
And anyways, but like when I met her, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and you like she's good looking and she's smart. I was like, I'm totally out of my league on this, but she likes me. So I do want to give this one. I want to tell you about my sneaky date.
Okay.
This is for all the people out there who have no game with ladies like myself. Serious, women terrified me. I'm just gonna say it. Okay. But here's the sneaky date I did.
Okay.
So, real nice, beautiful gal. She's really kind, real nice. We chatted a few times, and one time, this is what back with I messaged her on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go to a movie with a couple of us?" And she goes, "Yeah." I didn't invite anybody else.
I don't know what happened. No one else showed up.
Oh, man. And so it was funny because I had this Abercrombie & Fitch shirt that looked like a Burger King shirt. I'm not kidding you. It was not good. And I showed up with my Doc Martens, and literally I had a hole, like, and my toe was hanging out like this. Goodness. And she had a split foyer, so when she walked out, here I was. And so she's still stuck. So she saw something. I don't know, but like it was fun. So we went on a date and whatever. But that was about a couple weeks right before I was heading up to chiropractic school. Okay. And so I'm like, again, that story, I would never, that's a big one for us all. Boy, gosh, I would never do that. Careful. Yeah. I did the long
Never
term.
say never.
Oh my gosh. And so, we started, talking more and having like, where's this going to go? Oh, let's just keep chatting. And this is nice. And then, I remember in chiropractic school, there's two things that I really remember was with my wife. I was, on my phone. Again, I'm not a big phone person or talk person. My poor roommate, he's like, dude, you were in there like 4 hours talking with her. And I was like, I would never do that. He's like, what do you do? Just kind of like that. Yeah. Well, your face is warm, probably full of radiation in my head from those stars pose. But I was sitting there, and we were talking like that till the wee hours, and I'd walk out, and he's like, basically like, dude, you suck. Like, right. What have you done? You've crossed to the other side. Oh, yeah. And then, and she was down there, and that's back when, gas, whatever it is now. Back then, there was a pocket of time when I drove my Explorer, it was like $5 gas. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that just a little bump.
It popped up there, but we went, and we had like chiropractic school. What was it? We had like one summer, since we were both in the Greek life, I think we had like 14 or 15 weddings in one summer. Oh, goodness. And so at $5 a gas. That's expensive. $5 gas and then your gift. There. Oh, yeah. And so I always joke that like most of my student loans went to gas and weddings in that year anyways, but she was worth the drive, and so we ended up getting engaged, and then we got married right into chiropractic school, and dude, I married up. Serious, man. It's so good.
It's a blessing, right?
Yeah. So I found my good Christian girl, which was so like, that was my who. Okay. And that's the other thing that it changes you when you have your person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good.
When you look at the journey through chiropractic school that led you to the outcome of becoming a chiropractor, was there anything in that experience that you think was the most transformative for you?
I think the big one is looking at money. Okay. This was an interesting point of view. So I grew up on a farm, and my dad was a farmer, and he said, I told Dad at like 7, I'm like, Dad, I love you. Well, I didn't say I love you. This is what I thought I would have said. Right. But I said, basically at 7, like, I'm not going to be a farmer. Mm-hmm. And so if you think that as an entrepreneur and you think about a farming lineage, you build a farm to pass it on and do the stuff.
Yes. That's, whoa.
Yeah. So like, I'm not going to do that. Okay. And Dad was never like, oh, but you got a farm. He's like, cool.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Whatever. Do what you got to do. This is good. Mm-hmm. But in chiropractic school, they always, they went around the room and they said, what's your big concern? First trimester, T1 they call it. So first trimester, what's your big concern? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, student loans, money. How much this is, it's about $250,000 investment, and over a period of time. And Dad had a powerful point of view that it didn't scare me at all. He goes, here's the deal. If you're going to get into farming for the first time, $250,000, you maybe bought a tractor, and you maybe bought he listed three things.
Exactly.
He goes, you haven't bought land, you haven't bought seed, you haven't bought this, you haven't bought this and this and this and this. And he goes, and your return on investment is going to be a heck of a lot more profitable.
Right.
So that was my mindset.
Okay.
So I had a different mindset on money than most people probably did. The fear of, oh my gosh, it's going to cost a lot. How am I going to do this? So I just looked at it as an investment instead of an expense. Because the alternative was, if I went into farming, everything would have been teed up just fine.
Right.
That's hard. If you're a generational farmer, or if you're starting farming, dude, that's a different game. God bless you, man, because that's hard, especially now. Oof. Yeah. So in mine, my, again, call it a money mindset or call it whatever it was this is an investment, not an expense. And if farming, which you can't control the weather, you can't control the thing, I can at least control what I can do for helping, getting the message out. And at the time, I had no clue what marketing was. I had no business background. I had no anything about anything. I just knew, that just makes sense.
But you were all in on the concept of chiropractic.
Yep. And that was from the time I was in that cop car.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Actually, from the time I blew out my hip and low back when I was junior year of high school, I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
That's the thing is usually when I make a decision, I'm like, that's the thing.
Okay. That's also a trait that I think is Depending on the business owner, it's the decision-making capability that usually is the differentiating factor.
Right.
Like if you're able to make a decision and then act in that decision,
Yeah.
that's usually what will create outcome.
Yep.
Especially outcome you desire.
Yeah. When I make a decision, I don't negotiate with myself.
Okay.
That's it.
I like that.
Go.
Let's unpack that a bit. Like, how did you learn that? Or was that innate?
It's just one of those things. I think it's let's go back. I don't know when or that was.
Because that is not common.
Yeah, I found that out.
Yeah. The
It
vast majority of people, when they do come to a decision-making point in their life, oftentimes they waste time negotiating with themselves.
Yeah. I think what I found is when you run the decision, obviously you pick your choices in your past and you got to run anyways. Mm-hmm. So I pick one and I just run as fast as I can to that thing to figure out and get a no as fast as I can. That's why no's don't bug me.
Okay.
I run there as fast as I can. If I get a yes or a no, cool, it worked. Oh, how are you so good at this? Because I got a lot of no's. Mm-hmm. And I made a lot of decisions. Entrepreneurs, what we do more than anything? We fail.
Yeah.
We fail more times than we succeed. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're so good.
Everyone pays attention to the success.
Or we tell everyone about our success. Dude, I have no problem saying, here's all my failures.
Exactly.
Because I think that's what the thing is. The world is starving for authenticity. But once I said, making the decision, it wasn't until I actually realized when a few people go, I can tell you what I can tell you, but once you made a decision, like, it's almost like there's no point even talking with you.
Right. Because they already know.
Because I can't change your mind. I go, you're right. And there's different books I've read, like A Made Up Mind. There's a few different books. I do a lot with mindset. I coach a lot of chiropractors. I think it's definitely more when I started coaching chiropractors with mindset type stuff over, about decades worth at least now. And you just see the outcomes are faster with people who make decisions. So you're like, well, if I want something, first, because the hardest question is, what do you want?
Yes.
Boy, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Once you figure out what you want and you make the decision, you're like, okay, go.
Yeah.
Do everything you can to go as fast as you can without mowing people over, doing as legal and ethical as you can,
Absolutely.
the best you can. Not perfect. Perfection doesn't exist.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know when it started, but I just, in hindsight, it was just kind of like student counseling. I just made a decision.
And you did it.
Just did it. And it was, I've sat on that before. I go, oh, there's a pattern there. And so I really I'm very attuned to patterns. So now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what I want, and then I'm gonna make a decision.
Okay.
And then I park on it. I do quiet time. I sit there and go, hang on a second, because the toughest part sometimes is you make a decision on what you want. And a lot of people get it and they're unfulfilled. So I really got to stop and go, what do you really want? Well, I want to make sure that my marriage stays strong and that I'm a good father. And then I take care of my staff and the role my staff plays to serve the patients. But I think in the especially entrepreneur world, we get that one shifted massively upside down. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing is kind of going back to like my decisions. When I, and if someone's not a believer, I love you. My job is just like for me. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But for me, I'm like, when I got baptized, I said, hey, God, this one's between you and me. When I did marriage, I said, that one, like, this, I'm saying this is my person, no one else. This is my person. And then with my kids, dedicating my kids to like saying, God, these are my kids. The rest is irrelevant. So when you said I made a decision, I also made that decision. Then I think when you have those priorities stepped the right way, I can make all the other decisions I want as long as I make sure that, because I've had it upside down too. Did I make sure I called my wife? Did I make sure I gave my flowers? Remind me after this, I got to send my wife some flowers, by the way. I said that was the thing I was going to do.
Okay.
But I think that's the fun thing is just when you make those decisions and you don't vacillate from them, it helps you hold where your character and your integrity is to the decisions that you made to yourself. Then when you hold that yourself to that standard, you can still be that same authentic version of yourself. And I think that's tough because we're all trying, like the drinking Justin.
Right.
That wasn't the authentic version of me.
No. That was the version that got the attention you desired at the moment.
And so that's the neat thing is, I think it's a really sweet space when you can be like, when you can be a person when no one's watching and be the same person when everyone's watching. That's when there's authenticity. And it's difficult for a lot of people because of fear.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, but what will someone think? I'm like, they won't think about you in like 5 minutes. You're still thinking about what they said however long ago. Or you think they're thinking about something.
Right.
Dude, you're not that, okay, I love you, but you're not that good. You're not that significant. Why? They don't care about you.
Right.
And so so what I figured out is we made the decision to go back to like, who do I really care about? Care about, what's my integrity spiritually and to myself, to my wife and my kids and my staff, and then the people I serve, and just kind of run it through that lens of forgiving yourself when you also fall short, because you're human.
Yes.
Edward, you ever mess up before?
All the time.
Hey, hop in the boat. There's plenty of room for us both here.
Exactly.
And so but perfection's a lie. I think that's the toughest part is I gave myself permission to forgive myself for not being perfect and others.
Again, I think that's just so powerful, because a significant amount of challenge that most business owners experience is that fear of failure prevents them from doing the thing that they actually need to be doing to get to the outcome they actually want to be getting to.
It's so powerful, yeah.
And it's just understanding that it's okay to fail.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, not just okay, it's almost necessary, because if you think about it, like struggle is a part of learning. In fact, it's probably one of the most critical parts of learning. A baby learns to crawl when its toys are just out of reach. And when you look at the journey of entrepreneurism, you're not born knowing everything. You're not born knowing how to run a business.
Yeah.
If you were, you're remarkable.
Yeah.
Most aren't.
No.
And the only way you learn is either through trial and error, and if that's the only way you learn, it's mostly error.
Yes.
Or you're learning vicariously through others.
Right.
Mentorship, books, podcasts, YouTube videos now with technology the way it is today.
Right.
But there are channels to learn. And you learned in addition to having some innate qualities, just based on everything you shared with me in this episode, but also me just knowing who you are as a person.
Right.
You have some innate qualities, which sets you up for probabilities of success.
Right.
That just is what it is.
Yes.
So we have to own that.
Yep.
Not everyone has those innate qualities, but I do believe that there's opportunities for people to get a similar outcome even without having the innate qualities, because some of those qualities can be learned.
100%. I would say, and this is that whole nature nurture type thing. Your environment trumps everything, and I would say that. And here I'm fruit. Yeah. Everything I'm doing is fruit. So here I am. I'm a person who is terrified of public speaking. Oh, I'm just not good at it. Bull. You just haven't put in the reps. Exactly. I've done the reps, because when I started my chiropractic practice, I was one of the first ones, because again, I'm a let's go person. Yeah. I'm going to launch mine. I got it. I did it. And then all of a sudden I saw 7 people the first week, and then 14, and then 21. Do the math. This sucker's going to blow up. And then it went back to 14 a week.
Ouch.
Yeah. So this whole doctor thing, oh, you got a silver spoon in there. If you build it, they will come. Lie.
No.
Lie. $250,000, 50% of our profession fails in 5 years. Well, here's the deal. I was terrified. Remember I said how that microphone was going on? We're saying something like that?
Yes.
My heart was pounding so much, literally saying my name and something you liked.
Wow.
Dude, Edward, I'm not kidding you. And so anybody who's terrified of public speaking, you're my person. But what did I have to do? I was terrified. I was, again, my clinic was going down. And I'm like, no. Like, believe me, I got enough drive. Like, I'm the person, like, don't tell me something can't be done. Right. But I also am very aware of where my weaknesses are. And so I'm like, hey, and I called a buddy who was doing well, and I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, hey, we're in this coaching group. I went in, and I met with them, and they said, hey, the thing about this doc, he does everything we tell him, as long as it's legal and ethical for your state. If it's not, don't do it. But we don't do that.
Right.
So other than that, when this comes out of any entrepreneur's mouth, wherever you are, yeah, but that doesn't work here. Believe me, that's in every profession. Right. Interesting. How come the person across the street's doing it? And it's legal?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, so I just knew, okay, what was he doing? And I saw patterns of, okay, well, he did it. And they said, he's the most coachable, teachable person that we know. And so I said, okay, tell me what to do.
You haven't met me yet.
Tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Okay. And the tough part is, and I authentically say this, my buddy, you know, he was one of those unique dudes. Like, I love him. He had street smarts and book smarts.
Okay.
I had to bury my butt in the library. I literally always joke that I graduated the top of my class because of my height.
Right.
But like, no, seriously, like I had to like
You had to work it.
reading for me and comprehension was not easy.
Okay.
You know, I'm a visual learner, so like anytime it was a book or a test, tests were really hard for me. I mean, just really hard. But I'm like, oh, I just did whatever I had to do. But the same thing was when they said, hey, you got to be coachable, teachable. So he heard something and could apply it and run. It took me time like to hear it again and again and again and again and again. So I had to like pound that in there. But one of the things they had me do was, oh yeah, well, these people, you know, patients really don't know, like, you know, there's so many chiropractors, they want to know what you do, and a lot of them have lies about what it is, and I haven't had a bad experience. Like, so just do it. You need to do like a patient orientation class that tells them what it is. That requires what? Public speaking. Watson's. But I knew is what it took. And so when you're terrified of public speaking, again, you think they're judging you. Here's the deal. It's not about you. That's hard. That's hard to shift your mindset on this. It's not about you. It's about them. You can say that, but until you like overcome it, like, and so they gave me a framework. I kind of modeled it. And then when they came in, I got up and I talked and I said, you know, I followed the framework. I rehearsed a couple times, and yeah, every time you do the first time, it's just
right.
Usually not awesome, but it wasn't until someone was like, oh, that was really good. How come no one's told me that before? You're really good at this. And I went, me? Interesting. Then you started hearing, dude, like you're really good at this. Because again, everything I do, I'm all in. Right. I don't dabble.
No,
I don't dabble.
I know that about you.
Like I'm all in. So I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Okay.
And what I found was my biggest fear or my biggest pain point, every time I ran at that, it ended up being like my biggest calling. It's like any pain is always a platform for your purpose. So I'm always like, that's always a mantra and kind of, I mean, I'm like, okay, then what are my biggest pain points? Well, if it's a big fear, I'm just going to run at it and master it, especially when I stink. So I'm just going to try my best. And it was public speaking. And the cool thing about the fear of public speaking is when you overcome that, the reason most people are afraid of it is you could authentically change someone's life.
Yes. It's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility, but most people are stuck on, oh, it's about me. So like the people on stage, like, look at me, look at me. We're just here to like be inspired. Like you've never went like, oh, I'm here to judge this person on stage. No one does that.
No, not at all.
You're like, how can you help serve me? I literally like subconsciously I think, I wonder how this person can serve me. But the person is, we're so egocentric about ourselves. Because I was, and everyone has fear. We're like, it's about us. Mind shift, it's not about us. And here's how I figured it out. It wasn't until there was a gal who suffered with some migraines one time. She had 24 years of migraines. Okay. And she'd been to 14 different other chiropractors. She went to medical doctors, neurologists, across to Mayo. She had taken so many different medications. She's had surgery. She had part of her brainstem. I mean, believe me, there's a lot of heavy stuff. And she was on medication. She started losing her memory. She started just getting worse and worse and worse. But she had the exact same migraine for about 24 years. And it was starting to get worse. And so she goes, hey, can you help me? I go, I don't know, but I'm going to try. So I did a patient orientation class that went through the just like explain, here's what we do, and here's the time frame, and here's probably what you heard before. And she got to the end. She goes, she had a mad face. And I've never had people be mad. This gal was mad. I was like, yeah. She goes, how come no one's ever told me this before?
Oh, that's a problem with the medical community in general. But yeah, wow.
But she had been to 14 other chiropractors.
That's deep.
So this is why I was like, holy cow. And so like when I was starting to lecture and teach other chiropractors a few things too, I mean, that's the biggest, we talk about having an exponential purpose, like deep inside of us to like help impact others. I'm like, dude, let's go find other chiropractors who are afraid of speaking. Okay. Because dude, once you unleash them with truth, because it's truth.
Correct.
Because my clinic called Axiom. Axiom is a universal truth. Okay. And so she was like, again, not ticked off. And again, I'm not against medical doctors by any means. And there's this big, because there's like this thing, dude, most time it's the insurance companies, it's the big one, but that's a different can of worms. But I just told her, this is what it is. It's going to take some time based on chronicity or whatever, and based on a few things, and here's my best recommendation. And she goes, I'm in. Let's go. And so she came in, we started care, and it took some time. And I think that's a tough part. People say, oh, I tried chiropractic and it didn't work. Well, the biggest thing when someone says, I tried chiropractic and it didn't work, what most people don't realize is there's medical branches and there's unspoken chiropractic branches. You know, if you are a medical doctor, I guess my neighbor is a radiologist for oncology. I have an ER. Actually, I went to undergrad with him. He's an ER doc. I got a pharmacist. I am in a group of just phenomenal people. But a lot of times, if you have like an oncologist that's cancer focused, a gastroenterologist, a stomach, hepatologist, liver. So if you go through all these different things, they have a very specific specialist. So they're more of the reductionistic, focusing on a region. Okay. Well, the thing about chiropractic is it's more of a holistic thing. And so if someone is having an elbow, a shoulder, or this, or this, or this, it is more of a holistic, not reductionistic, more mechanistic, meaning seeing the whole point of view. And so when someone comes in, there's so many different trainings. And this is the beautiful and horrible thing about chiropractic, Edward, is, you know, I've lectured at state associations, even my own. I've lectured at medical facilities. I mean, lectured wherever. But I always love this question when I got a big room of chiropractors. I go, raise your hand if you know without a doubt that you practice the exact same, both in your philosophy and technique, as someone else sitting in this room. How many hands go up?
I would imagine none.
0.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing and horrible thing. And a lot of times this whole chiropractic medical doctor fight is, you know, if I said, all right, what chiropractor would you refer to? They're like, well, what technique do they use? And I go, stop right there. How the heck would you expect medical doctors to be pouring patients if you don't know what chiropractor to refer that to?
Exactly.
Why would they? They're like, because then they say, I don't know, because they're not informed what we do. And this is my best analogy, but if you see my hand, you know, you see fingerprints and I see fingernails. Okay?
Perspective.
Flip it. You know, in chiropractic school, I had pharmacology training. It doesn't mean that number one, it's illegal for me to say, for anybody to start taking or stop taking. It's illegal, but just because I was trained in it doesn't mean I'm an expert.
Right.
And so the thing is, but they're not trained in what it is. Like a lot of times, I think it's like 50% of medical schools even offer like maybe 1 credit of nutrition. I don't know if that's changed, but at the time when I was like, it's not a lot. Right. Because you're in pharmacology. And so that's the thing. Like my buddies in undergrad, which we all took organic chemistry and all this. And then when we split, there's 2 paths. You know, and again, there's crisis care where there's drugs and surgery, which are good. Like my pastor fell 60 feet and shattered his pelvis and he needed it. Over here, we're trying to find ways like how do you help the body heal the best you can?
Right, right.
But if we're 2 trained totally different methods and methodologies, the outcome's still the same. We're trying to serve people. But this whole wedge of you're right, I'm wrong, like the fight's up, the glove's up, or whatever, it never really truly works because the patient's in the middle going like, who the heck do I listen to? Yeah. And so this Dawn, or you know, the patient anyways, who had 24 years of migraines, so that's why she was so frustrated. But the cool part was, and I did the orientation class, she understood what it was. She didn't have any questions. She's like, this makes sense. Tell me what to do. She lays down, and it takes me about a minute to adjust my wife and kids, who I love the most. Yeah. So like once they're educated, you know, everyone's like, oh, it's like a factory in and out. No, they were pre-educated. They knew what was going on. And if there's a new condition, sure, let me know. But here's our approximate time frame, and then we do a re-exam. Okay, to make sure you're getting better. It was so cool because it took time. It took her about, it was about less than 3 months, but she sits up and goes, today, Dr. Wubben, I am at 100%. And it was really cool because ever since then, that was a long time ago. She's only had like 1 migraine since. Oh, wow. And so the cool thing was, her medical doctor was like, dude, it was so cool. Her name was Dawn. And she had just went in right before she came to me. She had went in. And I think that's why she was like frustrated, because she's like, I was just there and they have to go through their med lists. And it was a big list, Edward. It was huge. Like I'm talking like heavy. Wow. Not just Tylenol. Heavy narcotics. Not good. And so they have their med list, and she came in for another visit. And it was really cool because she shows up for her appointment. Doesn't really say much. She's like, you know, 'cause she had a scheduled appointment. Like, come in at this time. Hey, Don, I was just kind of going through your med list. And I know you didn't put anything, but, we've been doing this a while. So, okay, what medications are you taking? She goes, nothing. He goes, yeah. She goes, no, you don't understand. I'm not taking anything. And he went,
wow.
What's going on here? Mm-hmm. That medical doctor referred me well over 25 patients in a 3-month period. And that is unheard of. The tough part is he moved. but the thing is, a lot of those results, it goes to patient results.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that medical doctor, and there's a lot more medical doctors that are waking up now too, and chiropractors. This ain't a medical thing, but like they're like, hey, on, you should go to a chiropractor. And here's the deal: like when my pastor fell 60 feet and shattered his pelvis, he didn't need any chiropractic. The dude needed drugs and surgery. There's just no question. So again, this is the biggest thing: is when you have crisis care and you have health care. The biggest contradiction in this nation is calling crisis care or sick care health care.
Right.
That's the biggest one. It's not that there's good or bad doctors. I mean, my mom has gone to. My mom has the best kidney doctor. I tell you what, the nephrologist. I mean, I love this guy. He's phenomenal. They're great people. They're serving. My dad had cancer. The oncologist, Dr. Hack. I mean, she's awesome. I mean, just these are good people. And so what I'm quite honestly, Edward, the most frustrated about is this stupid battle of pride and ego. And I think that's the hard part about this thing called truth, which is like that foundation.
Right.
That as that entrepreneur drive, I feel like this calling is to like end this battle, but you got two such polar,
quite literally,
like they look at it two
the
different
nature
ways.
of polarity in general, yeah.
And so, but people are starting to, I'd say, wake up is the right word or not, but the biggest challenge is a lot of the people don't know things. Like a lot of people don't know that the American Medical Association was guilty of conspiracy 3 times in Supreme Court trying to eradicate the chiropractic profession. If you were a school counselor, like the one I went to, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Right.
They were told, and this is all documented too, like, do not choose chiropractic because it's evil, it's bad, or whatever, like this. Same thing with, medical doctors got what's called a quack pack. So it's always interesting. And it used to offend the heck out of me. Now I'm just like, dude, whatever. But, chiropractor, you're a quack. Or here's the thing, and if anybody's ever had a bad experience at a chiropractor, I'm sorry. Most of the time it's misinformation and miscommunication, saying, hey, there is a potential you could have some sore spots. There are some issues where you might feel worse or whatever. But and I think that's the thing, pending on a technique, what ones you should use, shouldn't use. And that's where I lecture to chiropractors, being like, dude, as long as there's crystal clear expectations of what kind of clinic you have, like we do a totally different technique now, but like if you're more of a wellness-based, yeah, you're going to have wellness maintenance care.
Exactly.
And 20% of the nervous system is pain. Well, spinal health is different than pain management. And maybe patients are initially just coming in for pain, but it's like,
Let's make you holistically healthy.
Yeah, and really just saying, hey, here's what we do and here's what health actually is, because people don't know, right? Like my pastor, like his after his pelvis, like his foot was numb. We're checking stuff in his lumbar spine.
Right.
But people don't know. They're not told. Your foot is dead and numb because of a disc that's squished, L455S1, that's your lower back area. They're not told that. So they're taking, hey, you're hurt, here's the medication. And the doctors are good people, are saying, dude, you're hurting. Let's help you with the tools we have. But when you see enough people turn around and they're like, how come I'm not told that? I think the tough part, especially when I first started with my failure, when I would up at my...
Yes.
I'd come in, new patient, and I was never told, hey, here's how you actually educate a patient.
Well, I do think that's important across the board, not just for chiropractic. So regardless of what business you're in, as the business owner, it's your responsibility to tell your audience what it is that you do and why it's important.
Right.
So how did you become a good storyteller about what you do?
It was from consistent repetition of doing, like I said, we weren't told what to do.
Right.
I just said, Mr. and Mrs. Patient, this is one of our requirements at our office to make sure that we're a good fit for you and like this. But here's the biggest one. What I found is this is to help you how to avoid undoing what we're doing here.
Oh, right.
I mean, really, like so many people are like, yeah, I tried chiropractic and it didn't work. Well, do you know all the things that could make it not work? What are some potentially destructive lifestyle patterns that you're doing of what got you here in the first place?
Right.
You didn't just all of a sudden one day go, how come it's not working? Something happened, but you didn't know what it was.
Right. That's the education process, if you will.
Yeah, and so the education of what you do and really just going through. And at the very end, here's the biggest thing is chiropractor, especially with me. Like, this is really hard, but like, you gotta be okay knowing you're not everybody's person.
Right.
That's hard, especially like I remember like in the struggle moments, I was brand new. I'm not kidding you. It felt like I swear there was 8 patients I don't know if they were in a row, but it was really a short period of time. They were coming in and be like, hey, is this the clinic across the street?
Oh.
And here's what I had to do for my integrity. I went, no.
Yeah.
It's over there. And I feel good about that now. I really do, and I'm glad I kept my integrity on that, but it sucked so much.
In the moment.
It sucks so much, but I think what it is every business model has to have an education. This is what we do, and here's who we are. And if you're the right person, here it is, and if you're not. And it is tough when you're brand new and starting out. Mm-hmm. You know, I went around, 176 businesses and said, hey, here I am. I'm having a hot dog thing. Come on over. I thought they'd flood in. I got one new patient out of that whole deal.
Right. The self-promotion thing definitely becomes a challenge for a lot of business owners because they don't, sometimes they feel very uncomfortable just talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh, yeah.
They may become good at public speaking in general, but the grandiosing, if you will, basically saying, hey, listen, I'm the attractive character, pay attention to me.
Right.
A lot of business owners struggle with that.
100%.
But you don't, if you come from a place of authenticity, where you know what you're doing materially impacts those you touch for the better, then you have a moral obligation to share it.
Right.
And the process of becoming good at sharing it, though, requires time and repetition.
Yes.
Just like anything in life.
Right. And skill set.
And skill set. But you learn skill set.
Yeah.
You can learn skill set.
And that's the part that stinks because this is probably the biggest thing, too, because when you go get those a medical license, you're like this, patients are just, oh, congratulations, and they're flooded to you, so you never have to worry about marketing at all.
Right.
When you become a chiropractor, unless you're an associate doctor under a plus, welcome. You have to market. Ooh, I don't want to market. There's like this evil connotation.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you have to go share what you do, and that is it's so weird. It's that mindset thing 100% because I feel salesy doing it. Dude, you got a business.
Yeah. Sales has become a 4-letter word.
Oh, good grief.
It's 5 letters, by the way.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's not evil.
No way.
It's the process of helping other people know what it is that you do and to determine whether or not there's value in it for them.
Right.
And you know me, I think pretty well at this point. I am an unapologetic capitalist. Like, I believe in the whole concept of free market systems, and that if you get 2 or more parties in a room and they voluntarily agree to do business with one another, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And your ability to share your story helps in that sales process. I often, because sometimes I'm asked, like, what do I think the most important skill sets are for business owners? And I definitely say that if you have the option to learn a skill, sales is definitely one you want to learn, because no matter what you're doing in life, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, whether you're a stay-at-home mother or father or a retiree, doesn't matter. Whatever you are in life, you're always selling something. You're selling yourself, a service, or a product.
Edward, one of the big ones right there, you can break it down to one word. It's called communication.
Absolutely.
And I think that's like, what are we doing when we're answering the phone? We're communicating to this person that we have a solution.
Yes.
When we're telling, a TV ad or a Facebook ad or a mailer or pick at anything, we're just communicating a message saying we are here to serve you. Mm-hmm. And it's a weird shift when you think about it, but it's like, oh, yeah, it is good.
Yes.
Like we and it's just asking questions. Do we authentically help people? Yes. Do we? And I'll tell us the staff, because every once in a while I'll get a new staff member that you're training or whatever, and it feels this way. Just be like, okay, then we got to talk about the why. What is what are we actually doing? You're not getting, and you're not pushing people, and you're holding. It's kind of like if I was like, Edward, we're going to go over there and I'm going to push you that way, I can get you there.
Right.
But if I was like, Edward, come here, buddy. Check this out over here. You'd be like, well, I want to see that.
So much better.
And so, and that's the thing, but you have to have something worth looking at.
Right.
And you have to have something, what is it? You got to have results of some kind. You got to have an ability to help someone and authentically be willing to communicate that. Because they don't, like Dawn, and here's the thing. Because had I not done this talk, this is the part, and I've had a few people, like, you want to talk about why I get so passionate about doing talks? I've had multiple people who said to me afterwards, they're like, I thank you for doing that talk and coming out to that place. And I don't tell people this, but I was thinking about ending my life.
Wow.
Had you not come out, I'm not sure I'd be here. You want to talk about like, not about you? You think, and like, if anybody's had a migraine, like I don't get headaches.
Right.
Well, I get checked quite a bit by my car. Like I practice when I preach, but like I have had a headache, and I'm like, I don't know how people do it.
Right.
I seriously don't. And I can't but when I have, I'm not like, I'm in appreciation if I do have it, because I realize how much of a hell that really is for people.
Right.
And to try to be a mother when they're screaming kids, to work at a facility, maybe a daycare, an office.
Yes.
Anybody who's watching this on a computer or a cell phone, maybe you work at a
hunched
computer in a
over,
hunch like this, staring at that all day, and maybe you have to have customer relations, or you're it's really communicating with people. And people, here's the deal. This is why I'll never get mad at someone if they bark at me, because I don't know if they actually have a migraine,
right,
or a headache, or a low back pain, or have had emotional stuff in their life. Because imagine you have that, like your attention span is shorter, your fuse is shorter.
Yes.
So if someone's like barks at you, like you don't know that they just potentially got in a fight at home, or again they're rocking this huge health challenge, low back, whatever it is, or pain, or a stomach, or just like you don't know that their mom or dad were just diagnosed with cancer, and they don't have
exactly,
and so that's the thing. Every time a person comes in, or I think we've all had those fun, really negative Facebook posts or reviews or whatever, and I remember the first time I was like, oh no, and I'm like, hey, you feel sorry for them.
Oh yeah.
And here's the deal. You just don't care. And quite honestly, if it's 100% 5 stars, you probably know that's not true.
Right.
But I'm okay, like, when you have that. But yeah, when you see someone who authentically tells you saved, like, when you go, wow, you saved someone's life.
Yes.
And I know that.
Wow.
I've seen, like, there's other things too, but like, that's a little bit, it's not about you different. And so now it's not just something you do. Marketing is your responsibility.
Absolutely.
Like get out of your way and get out of the freaking way of because if you don't have a pair, if you will, to take your fear and go potentially help serve that person. In your case, maybe they're, if someone has financial literacy skills, then they just don't have anything. Like that's one of the biggest problems.
Oh yeah.
Health and finances. I mean, geez, if they don't. Oh yeah, because there was a chiropractor. And this is the part that sucks too. Because he's in my hometown, and he ended up. I mean, things were so bad. He ended up, and because I was reading between the lines later, his wife was like, he ended up killing himself because his finances, his business were upside down. But if he had either financial or business literacy or a clinical skill, or was setting a good associate plan that was set the right way, like it's one of those things that how can it be that bad? Unless maybe he had health challenges and couldn't reach out to another chiropractor for shame, like, oh, I'm a failure, or couldn't reach out saying, hey, I actually need help with finance because I don't understand it. Or business, shame says, I got to reach out for help, but because I don't understand it, but I don't want to let other people know.
Right.
And it's hard for people, but that's like, there's a few, like, that's why I want to help chiropractors, because, man, like, if I could help another chiropractor be, quote, successful or be better, like, it gets to impact people I'll never see. Like, my mentor, James Chestnut, was on stage one time. He goes, and this hit me before I was even a chiropractor. I was just wrapping up. He goes, here's the deal. I'm up on stage right now, but if I do a good job, I'm going to help exponentially more people. If I help you serve like this, I'll help way more people than I do if I'm just one-on-one.
Yes.
And so that same thing from educating people what health actually is, and think of, again, crisis care, sick care, and when it's in its right place, in healthcare, knowing all our roles, but not being afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Financially, your health, your relationships, you're struggling. Having, like I say, that the inner circle that we're in together is like, and as we spend more time authentically with people, I know people who are struggling with marriage. I know people who are dealing with substantial health challenges. And quite honestly, here's what I know. Not everyone's business is doing perfect right now.
Right.
Why? Because we're all human. But when you're able to have those abilities to have conversations and ask for help and be authentic, and you can just be the best version of yourself, not perfect, that's rare. But I've seen patterns of success. So, like, share your failures. People want to hear it. Ask for help for someone who's good at doing what they do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I find pretty interesting about the medical community in general, not just chiropractors, medical in general, is I think that industry actually has some significant advantage when it comes to the concept of sales, because you, in general, you're just healthcare in general, you're used to the concept of diagnosis. And I actually think that the best way to get through a sales discussion is to come from the place that you're trying to diagnose. Right. What is the problem that my customer, my patient, my client is currently ailed with? Right. Uncover that, and then determine if what you have is the solution, because it may not be. Right. And I think that a lot of people struggle with this concept of sales being like slimy or sleazy, or just they're uncomfortable with it because they don't know that the process is to add value if you can. Right. And if you can't, then you say that. Right. Which means both are good outcomes. One, you either have a solution, or two, that person now can be informed that you don't have a solution, so they can move on to find another one somewhere else. Right. And one of the things that you touched on, I also want to key in on too. You're basically alluding to the fact that there's this drive to get to a good place. No matter how we get there, we're trying to get to a good place with those we serve. Yeah. And you've been doing that now for a long while within your both your practice and now within your community that you're serving. Right. Tell me about what drove you to not just help your patient base, but now to help your peers.
I think that biggest pivot when I joined that coaching or mentoring group was I always showed up. Okay. I was coachable and teachable, right?
Yes.
And they had seminars once a month, and they did a statistic thing, and they said, hey, whoever goes to the most seminars has the biggest growth. So initially it was like,
okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah, because what happened was, here's what I did. I joined, I went, boop, boop. I was like, yeah. And then,
yeah.
And then they did this thing called phenomenal fall. They're like, hey, whoever had this most, here's the pattern. I was like, okay, well, you tell me what to do. I'm all in. Let's go. So the more seminars you go to, the more like this. And then so they would do like this testimony, like, dude, this guy's growing. And so they pull you up on stage. I had a mic, but I was used to doing talks. And I'm just like, just started speaking from my heart. And it came out, and then people were like, dude, you're pretty good at, same thing. Like, wow, dude, you're good on stage. Do you do like Toastmasters? No. It's just from here. Like, and this is a different concept, but it's called Blackout Speaking. Like when you speak so cleanly, like that you almost don't remember saying it, you're in your zone of excellence.
Yes.
But from a guy who went from a total fear to like, dude, this is what I'm supposed to do, and it just like comes out, and it's like almost prolifically profound, and you're like, wow. Can you say it again? I'm like, no. Did you record it? Because that's not from me.
Yeah, somebody hopefully got that on film. I hope that
someone got that, because that's not. Yeah, I mean it's in me, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. But like I'm like, wow, where would that come from?
Yeah.
Because most people are like, oh, I don't want to hear my own voice. It's not about you.
Exactly.
But like I started, so then you get called up on stage a lot for doing so well, and then eventually, there's different things, but a lot of chiropractors have mindset issues. This, just like mindset issues. Yeah. I would just say it's just mindset issues. I can't talk to a patient about this, and what about this? And we don't know what to do. And so there's procedures of what to do. But the one that really attracted me, and it was never really the procedures. I don't know why, but it was always mindset. Mm-hmm. Probably because I had so many issues.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. Here's what to say. Here's this. Do this. Say this. This. So it was the systems. But I was like, oh, okay. And so that was always really hard for me to follow those systems.
Right.
But the mindset was beautifully attractive.
Right.
And I kept going. And then I would talk to someone and I'd have conversations in the hall. And they're like, dude, that's so deep. Because during that mindset, they would give you like, hey, listen to this and start reading this. And I never read a book.
It's what you needed, though.
Yeah, like
it's amazing how much you can drink when you're thirsty.
Yeah, right? And so like they told me, read these type of books. I'm like, okay. Listen to these audios. Okay. And so I fed this vessel.
Yes.
I forced this vessel to drink this, and I shut off all I stopped watching all TV. Like, this thing is soil.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a hard detox. I did no email, no media, no anything for a solid week, and it was the most refreshing thing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And Edward, if you ask my team, it's still kind of that way. I don't really check my email ever.
Yeah.
I don't do anything because I'm just like, I can't be distracted by those things. But it was really, really fun. Once I started talking about just what was in me, the stuff that was put in me from mentors or whatever, people are like, dude, that's huge.
But it's what you're putting in you that matters.
Dude, 100%.
And you have to be very selective with not only what you put in you, but how you nurture it. Because, I mean, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much sunlight you give it, no matter how much water, nutrition in the soil, if you plant poison ivy, you will never get an apple orchard.
No way. 100%.
It just doesn't happen. You have to plant apple seeds to get an apple orchard.
Right.
So you have to put the right thing in the soil
Nailed it.
in order to get the growth that you want to get.
Right.
And I think that that's the challenge with a lot of business owners is that we're constantly bombarded with this thing or that thing that's not necessarily the thing we need.
Right.
And we allow ourselves to be distracted. Or even worse, we get bombarded with negativism.
Yes.
Oh, that you can't do that, or no one does it that way, or it can't be done that way in what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we allow those negative thoughts to infest our soil.
100%. And that's the tough part is it goes back to that environmental programming. The stuff that we're put in is, most of it is, you don't know anything about money because we don't.
Right.
Okay, negative neutral. Well, we're really never taught about what money is.
Correct.
Okay. Here, and that's your deep canvas. But really, like, what is money? Well, it's just an exchange of value. And if you thought of it that way, it's a bartering system. Like if I have a shoe business and you have chickens, and then you say, hey, you want some shoes? That'll be 3 chickens. Great. Right. Now you have a house. Hey, do you want 5,000 chickens? No, I don't want that because then I got to take those 5,000 chickens or whatever. But it's just we found this token thing. Here's a token thing. So it's a bartering system. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, really money's not an emotional. People are.
Yes.
And so
money is just a tool.
It's just a tool. And I think
nothing more, nothing less.
If we were taught that, because again, it's so easy to say, and someone's like, oh, no. It's easy for you to say. Believe me, I would be that person, like, easy for you to say. But because we're not taught that.
Right.
We're not taught anything. So weeds.
So, when it comes to financial stuff, I mean, the reality is it's not taught in our American school system, at least. Oh. There are some school systems around the world that it is discussed a bit, but in the United States, it's not taught in a way that actually matters to people. Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool.
Right.
It is nothing more. It's nothing less. And as tools go, it's like essentially a magnifying glass.
Oh, yeah.
It just makes the utilization of it, the person who's doing it, it just magnifies who they are.
Yes.
If you're a challenged individual, you're more challenged with money.
Yeah.
If you are a good person, you do even better things when there's money there. So when you look at your journey's been marked by trials and tribulations.
Oh, yeah.
There's been ups and there's been downs.
Absolutely.
What would you say has been your worst down moment?
Oh, this is fun. So I remember, Aiden, my little man, was born. And this is actually that time when I said it went up, poof.
Yeah.
Okay, so check this. This is when it was fun. So I got the coaching group. And, we're doing well, meaning, you've never, like, this is the crazy part too, when you're in chiropractic school, you're adjusting people and you'll do it for free. All chiropractors, I guarantee, here's the thing, you care so much about people, you'll do it for free. You just love serving people.
Right. But you have to pay the bills, though.
Oh, I know, but serving people is so fun, right? That's because why we got into it.
Exactly.
So anyways, it started like, I actually started doing some profit stuff. So you know what I did? I was like, my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're going to start let's go buy something. And of course, you're still like college student ash coming out of it, pretty much. You're fresh out of that. So we're like, hey, let's go, there's a rummage sale. Let's go buy, there's a bookshelf we saw. Hey, it's $100. Let's go get $100. So I went to the ATM and $0. Well, there's this little cool thing after you graduate, and there's this little thing called, what is it called? Oh, yeah, student loan payments. My wife's and mine came out for the first time at the exact same time, and we didn't know because we didn't focus on or pay attention to. That's the thing about, you focus on money. No, I pay attention to where it is. You don't.
Exactly.
Well, I just didn't know. And all of a sudden we're like, oh. And so this was powerful as heck because I had my good old Explorer, that same one that got 14 miles to the gallon. It was $5 a gallon, but so it was a guzzler. And I knew it took about $60 to fill that thing. And so anyways, we're sitting there. I pull up. I was like, it's empty. And then so we pulled off to the side, because I pulled my money out. And I was like, oh gosh. And like I had kind of this really come to Jesus moment, like, whoa, we just don't know our finances at all. And to top it off, Aiden had just blown out the last diaper. So here he is. Like, I'm sitting in Wells Fargo parking lot. I know, like, those moments where, like, where you were parked, the, everything. And so we're sitting there just kind of like, whoa, this is not cool. We got to get our stuff figured out. And it was at that point when you're at that, zero and, zero. You remember zero. And it was the craziest thing. We were sitting out there, and it was like a Saturday or something, but there was no one really going through the parking lot. It was totally empty. And so I had this, like, $100, or I forget what it even was, but it was like, we got to put this back in because we're not getting a bookshelf now, obviously.
Right.
Like, we got to take care of something. And just then, I swear we sat there for a half hour. No one went through. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead. We'll put it back, and we got to get something squared up because this is just not cool. And I drove up to the ATM. I was going to put it in. And it was the weirdest, craziest, fun thing. But there was $60 hanging out of the ATM.
Interesting.
I can't make this up. And I just to this day, it was, I'm very, like, at peace of what it was. But, like, no one, like, someone could, like, go through and, like, type a code and whatever. No one went through.
Right.
No one went through. And I'm like, and it's just $60, just hang out. And, so I'm pulled up, and I got my money right here. I'm like, and again, I'd like to think I have pretty strong integrity. I'm like, I don't like to steal. I'm just like, I went, is he going to just take it back? Like, I mean, it'd be easier for me if he took it back because I don't want to steal this. And I looked over, and my gas tank's like empty. I'm like, so I took the $60 out, I put it back in. We drove over to the gas tank, fill up, clicked at 60.
Wow.
And it was a principle that God was at the gas pump. Like, that's when it gets big. That one gets emotional. Yeah. Because it was like, because I've had other times where it's like, an entrepreneur, you've gone up and then you've gone down. Yeah. I've hit it a few, like, close to, and I'm like, that like, nope. I'm good. Yeah. But the cool question is then, it's not, should I just spend my money all the time like this? It's like the best question I ever ask myself is not, am I doing smart things with my money or my time or whatever? It's just, am I being a good steward with what I've been given? And I went, hang on a second.
That's powerful.
What does that mean? And I was like, hang on a second. Am I a good financial steward? What does a financial steward do? They probably know where their numbers are.
Yes.
Oh. Well, then no.
Recognize
Like,
recognize the shortfall.
no.
And then fix it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, no. So at the time, so again, in my seasons, and entrepreneurship, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have investments, and you got to invest in your business, and so things will go like this. But like when you get those all of a sudden like unplanned, oop, or that payment, oop, do you have a bookkeeper or a financial advisor or a system that either predicts or you know where those things are? For the longest time, I like now have a bookkeeper, but like for the longest time, I didn't have a bookkeeper. And so you're trying to do strategies for taxes. Those things exist too, not just student loans. But like, you know, your financial planning, get to the end of the year and go, all right, now what? That's not a very good plan.
Yeah.
So am I really a good steward with what I've been given? No. So do I deserve more?
No.
Ooh, get careful. That might hurt.
Yeah.
So I had to go like, all right, well, if God was at the gas pump, he'll take care of me. But I also got to make sure that I'm not going to always drive up to get, ATMs and stare at those and look for money popping out. I'm going to just go, hang on a sec. No, like the principle was that I always took is you'll be taken care of, but please be wise with what you've been given. Okay. And then take full inventory of what you've been given. And it's not just money. That's why when in those moments of ups and downs, I'm like, okay, what are the consistents? My wife, now my kids, my integrity, my character, who I am. And the rest is now the wisdom skills I did. So that was when I did the shift of we went down, I put that in. That's when I did that thing where I went to every boot camp. And you know what I did?
Absorbed it.
And so that was part of my, then obviously that was my story, a little bit too, of like, here's the deal. You guys are going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And so because I went to a boot camp and it was good and it helped me.
Right.
It's like I had a coach once I listened to, not consistently going deeper and deeper and understanding the depth and the principle of a lot of stuff. But yeah, when it was like a flash pan, we've all had those like spikes. But when you let your foot off the gas or say, I got it, oh boy, you're in trouble. Like I really authentic, like the worst thing anybody could say, like, I got that. I know that. You're how about this? Yeah. I'm understanding it. I got a pretty good depth of it. I want to learn more. I always want to learn more. Tell me more. Teach me more. Like
that's the phraseology you want.
Oh my goodness! Like, oh, I got money. What? No, dude. Your brain? I don't got it. I like to hang around people who have that knowledge and skill set now, and tell me more, teach me more, and about your own health, about your own business, about your finances, about your relationship with yourself, your spouse, your kids, and your friends. And I think that's another one too, is a lot of entrepreneurs are lonely.
Yes.
And this is a very unique thing I ran across lately too. It's not only that, like the tough part is we're always looking other places where you're familiar with the acres of diamonds.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously, so the acre of diamond story is, if you don't know, it's like a guy was looking for diamonds, digging for diamonds, and he's like, I gave up, and he sold it because he was looking for somewhere else. The guy went a little farther. He was under diamonds, like diamonds were underneath him the whole time. And too often we have relationships and friendships in our even own hometown we don't know about. Yeah, they're right there, and so that's a big one too. But when you're having those stewardships of those friendships. And your relationships and your finances and your health, and really just running through that same lens of, man, I got some work to do.
I think what you shared just now is probably the most powerful thing for any business owner to learn. That's any person in general. It doesn't even have to be a business owner. The concept of stewardship across all platforms. Obviously, I speak a lot about stewardship in the context of money.
100%.
I have a fundamental belief that every single dollar has a job. You are either going to give it a job or it's going to be someone else's employee. So if you're not the right steward, it's not going to stick with you. Yeah. So you have to do the things that require it, basically provide for you to grow into the ability to be that good steward.
100%.
Become financially literate. Right. Do the things it takes to be consistently literate, and then invest in yourself continuously, both in terms of actually investing in knowledge, investing in experience, and then having that same type of situation with your local community, meaning your family, and then your extended community, which would be your actual community of peers and clients and patients and whatever it may be. I really just love this conversation. What, if you wouldn't mind, oftentimes when I bring a business owner on, I like to engage in a thought exercise.
I like this already.
Okay. So let's go with this. Imagine for a moment that you have this ability to go back in time. And you're going to sit down and have the pleasure of being able to be with a younger version of Justin. And you get the opportunity to share just one thing with him. Who would you go back to visit, meaning the younger version of you, at what age, what circumstance, and what is the one thing you would share?
The cool thing is, one thing I would share or ask, I think that's the best question. I think I've actually ran myself through this before, and I think the cool part is like when you cast your vision like this. I mean, my brain thinks like so far in the future, and so like doesn't dwell on the past. It's sometimes hard to be present. But like I've so fully accepted everything that's happened that I don't know if I could or would. I've tried this before. It's like this one's really, honestly, like a lot of these mental ones are like, like this is probably one of the hardest ones for me to do, because I'm like, I would always, I think, and it's that one's a stump. Like I'm usually not a loss for words. This is a really good one. I love this. Because I don't know if it would be an age, and I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't learn a thing if I changed a thing. And man, I have learned a lot.
Well, the thing you share doesn't have to be a change.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would tell him. If I said, kindergartner Justin.
Okay.
And that's the thing is, then I turn it into a joke because I don't know what else to do. I'd be like, it's okay that Kristen didn't get yelled at and you got yelled at when you ran around with a kite on the letter K day. It's going to be okay.
Okay.
No, that's a really good one. I mean, really, I think the biggest thing is, just, I'd probably say that junior year of high school is just be like, dude, you don't even know what's going to happen.
Okay.
You don't know that this low back hip pain is going to save other people's lives.
Wow. Yes.
Like at that time, it was, my low back pain hurts. I'd be like, dude, you're going to save marriages, which I know I have. You're going to help people find Jesus because of your low back hip.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful. Like, and so like that guy would have been like, okay.
Right. Right.
So to me, I'd have been like, and for myself, I'd been like, whatever, weirdo. But I'd have been like, and then fast forward, be like, remember that? Here we are again. So it'd just be a fun one. I try to blow my own, like I'd probably say something profound, and my old self would be like, you're an idiot, dude.
Okay.
But that would be it. I would say that'd be the big one. Like, you don't know this.
Well, let me take you on the second half of this journey then.
All right.
Let's imagine for a moment then that a future version of Justin has now come back in time to sit in this room with us.
Yeah.
And he's going to tell you one thing.
Yeah.
What would he tell you?
You're on the right path the whole time.
I love it.
No question on that one.
I love it.
No question.
You were so firm. There was no hesitation. You knew exactly.
I know what I'm doing.
I love that.
What I'm doing, I'm where I'm going. I have my exit strategy, the ultimate exit strategy.
I love that.
I don't know the when.
Yeah.
But you're on the right path.
Awesome.
And I know it.
So now Justin has gotten two tips.
Yes.
You've shared something with the young Justin, and the present Justin got something from the future Justin. But I'd like the audience to get something.
Okay.
So if you could share one thing with the audience that you think would be of value, only one thing that we maybe didn't discuss yet, or even if we did discuss it and you want to reinforce it, what's the one thing you would share with the audience?
Find your biggest fear. Not running in front of traffic, obviously. And do that, because once you overcome that fear, everything else will pale in comparison.
Wow.
Everything.
Wow.
Public speaking. Check. I hate it and my fear of internet stuff.
Well, we know that's, yeah.
And you know what? We're part of an internet inner circle, and
Exactly.
it's the highest in the world.
Yes.
Okay. Like, I find fear, and then, like, compared to what?
You jump right in.
Yeah. And so then you get to the point, fear doesn't hold you back anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I still have them? I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Have an awareness of fear, but just
Don't surrender to it.
oh, no way. Like, it's literally like, we got some lights here. Fear doesn't exist when light's on, man.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you keep that light on? Surround yourself in an environment of either an accountability group, life group, some sort of mastermind, depending if your business, the ideally is mastermind. Surround yourself in an environment of those type of people who think the way you do and are going the same way that you are, following a concept of an individual who has already been there, that allows you to follow a framework that is true, that thing that also allows you to keep you focused on the purpose on why you do it, that allows that same group of people will always follow you along to help you when you're up and you're down, when it doesn't happen on your time frame, allow you to actually keep consistently do the things that you know you need to do that you're currently not doing to achieve the outcome that you want. And so when you consistently surround yourself, when you're like, gosh, I'm struggling with my health, you need a mentor and an accountability group who won't judge you, where you feel safe and secure. You're having problems with your finances, you need a group of people or a person where you feel safe and secure. Exactly. And literally when you get those things, that's the environmental programming and the paradigms that are set that help you get the philosophy, they help you guide it on a purpose, they keep you going to the point where you end up figuring out the things like your philosophies and your psychology and ultimately procedures, and then you prosper in the area of where you're having those contradictions, but it all boils down to the foundation where you feel secure and loved.
Yes.
And safe. And when you can be yourself in your finances, your health, your relationships, if you will, it's so foundational, but it's too simple because people are like, oh, people. But find your people.
Yeah, I love it, Justin. I really, really appreciate you being so authentic with us today. If the audience wants to find you out in the universe,
yes,
what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Well, that's the fun part. Ever since I've pretty much been the hardest guy to find ever, from cell phones to everything, the best way is, I have a book coming out.
Okay.
And it's Chiropractic Business Secrets.
Okay.
But the best way is, clinically we're doing stuff with neuropathy. We're helping other people. We're at Axiom Chiropractic. It's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Okay. You can look us up.
Reach out to you that way.
Yeah. And if there's any way that I can serve, I try my best. But
well, you've served significantly here by sharing your story, and I just want to thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
It's been amazing for me.
Awesome.
And I really do appreciate you being so authentic with us.
My brother. Appreciate it, Edward.
Guys, you have just witnessed another amazing episode with another amazing entrepreneur, an entrepreneur who is truly unleashed. So I just want to thank you. Once again, I'm Edward Collins. If you've loved this episode, 100% click that subscribe button, because you're not going to want to miss what's coming next. I wish you well in your journey. Bye for now. Justin, thank you so much. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I knew a lot about your story, but I didn't know all of it. And I just love how I love your perspective on things.
Yeah.
Because the way you look at the world, the lens that you have is one that most people should have. They don't. But wow, powerful.
Yeah, it's a lot of principles that and it is. Like I say, this thing could have went for 40 hours.
Yeah,
I already know that.